Hey everyone, thought it was about time for a long overdue update video. I posted something to the community tab about 2 months back, I think, saying I was going to make one, and then I decided to hold off just a little bit, so sorry about the delay. I figured I'd sit down and talk about all the random ongoing stuff I have on the channel, stuff that probably isn't going to come back, and also just revisiting old projects that still do need to be wrapped up, and I do plan on wrapping up. And also, like, future projects and other potential things on the horizon. I'm going to include a table of contents in the description so you can skip around, because this is probably going to be a long one. And also, just for context, this might sound weird, but I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm doing this a little weird. I have, like, 75% of what I'm about to say, like, scripted out. And then other parts where I'm like, yeah, fuck it, I can probably just improv this part. So this might sound really bad. You might not even hear this. I might just say fuck this and just script the whole thing or improv the whole thing and just try recording this later. But if you're hearing this now, that means it went well. So that's a good sign. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, let's talk about the Patreon a little bit. So first thing I wanted to update everyone on are the recent changes I made to Patreon, because a few of those happened. As I've stated before, I view my Patreon as kind of an evolving platform, and the tiers and the rewards and stuff are always subject to change. I just want to make sure I'm giving people their money is worth, and if that starts to, like, be a thing where I feel like I'm not giving people, like, great value or whatever, I'm probably, like, you know, I want to give people what they're paying me for, so I want to make sure that I'm being fair to everyone and making sure that the Patreon, if you choose to support me, is giving stuff to you that is worth your time. So, yeah, I know I always say this all the time too, but, you know, it's kind of a thing I feel obligated to say, but I genuinely really appreciate anyone who has ever thrown money my way through Patreon, even if you're not even, like, backing me anymore. I know times are horrible right now, and just in general, like, any help I can get, I really appreciate it. It means the world to me that people like the shit I make enough to ever support me in that way. I'm just humbled greatly by that. So I know y'all are probably sick of me saying that, but, you know, it's really the truth. So yeah, I mean, even also beyond that too, just if you've ever thrown, like, a super chat my way when I'm live streaming or anything like that too, those mean a lot to me too, and that's another good way to do, like, a one-time thing if you don't want to, like, subscribe to Patreon or do, like, a recurring thing or whatever. Just, you know, every little bit helps, and you know, even if you don't throw money my way, if you just watch my stuff, that, you know, that helps too. It means a lot to me. But yeah, you know, I'm sure that a lot of you have heard this from other YouTube creators and stuff, but YouTube ad rates really aren't what they used to be, and yeah, you know, just support I receive from Patreon is really part of the reason I was able to continue justifying making videos and stuff, because as much as I love doing this, you know, don't get me wrong, I'm passionate about the work I do here, and I really love doing it, but also the type of stuff I make requires a lot of personal time, and it's really just been a huge struggle the past few years of my life to balance personal life stuff and this channel and all that, and you know, like I said, when I first made the Patreon, like, there was kind of a point where I was like, do I even have time for YouTube in my life anymore? Do I need to stop doing this? But, you know, I kind of decided, like, no, let's make this a little more legit, and yeah, you know, just the little extra kick from Patreon just kind of continues me being able to justify to myself why I'm doing this, and gives me some material benefit from putting in all this hard work, you know, and, you know, people deserve to be compensated for their hard work, you know, so, you know, if you like the stuff I make and all that, and you feel like being generous with your cash, and I definitely am not against you supporting me, but also, you know, times are tight right now, like I said, quarantine kind of sucks. If you are in a rough place right now, always put yourself before supporting, like, me or, you know, weird people on the internet who make stuff you'd enjoy, you know, don't put yourself in a bad spot to support your funny internet content creator people. That's never a good thing, but if you have some cash to spare, I always appreciate any little extra kick. But yeah, recently I streamlined the Patreon down to 4 tiers. I used to have a couple higher tiers, but nobody really ever went for them, and their rewards were a little on the jokier side anyways. I kind of felt like I needed them just because I was like, well, if someone wants to throw $25 my way for some fucking reason, I should probably give them something, even if it's kind of a wackier thing. But no one ever really went for that anyways, and just looking at other people's Patreon stuff, I kind of realized, like, oh no, it's okay to just have something at, like, you know, like the $15 tier and have that be the highest tier. Like, you know, if people want to throw more, then they'll do that, but I shouldn't like have like tiers for those people because I don't know. I just kind of had them because I felt like I needed to, but the more I looked at Patreon stuff, I'm like, I don't really need to. So yeah, I've done a little bit of tweaking to the individual tiers as well. Most notably, I used to have a monthly project priority poll at the $10 tier where I would basically have people like select what I would put my personal time towards, but over time I really found that wasn't really conductive to my personal circumstances or the creative process I've kind of found works for me, especially because a lot of the projects I want to do take way longer than just a month for me to get done, and I decided to stop making them a monthly thing, and just make it something that's open to like all patrons to take advantage of. So whenever I feel like, hey, I don't know what I should focus on, I'm going to throw it to the patrons and see, like, hey, what do you guys want me to focus on? And I think the polls will be more rare but more impactful for actually what, you know, more conductive to how I work and do stuff. But also, of course, I still wanted to make sure I'm giving people their money. So instead of that reward at the $10 tier, what I'm doing instead is I do have a new video series that's basically kind of like a Giant Bomb quick look type thing where I'm taking a look at different games. I'm calling it Let's Try for now. Like, I played through Panzer Paladin and Other Side for the first 2 months. Yeah, just had a really good time looking at those games. And, you know, it's just a thing where I buy a lot of indie or niche games and never really get around to playing them for sometimes months or years on end. So it's just a good reason for me to check out some cooler titles, and maybe, you know, if you're looking for some weirder games that are a little less covered, you might be able to find some hidden gems through that, or just stuff that's off-kilter and strange that we can try out and see if it's any good or not, or at least, you know, if it makes a solid first impression. It's really a first impression series, but it might appeal to you, so if you're interested, that's going to be at the $10 tier, the Pact Partner. And then also, too, recently I did change the Bran Ambassador tier, which was the $5 tier. It has 2 different rewards. The first reward is access to behind-the-scenes blog posts where I talk about the process of making my reviews and video essays and stuff like that. Like, I have one out for the Shuffle Time Duelist of the Roses video I did, where I basically give you timestamps and kind of annotate the making of writing and editing and publishing the Duelist of the Roses review, and like my thought process behind stuff, things I really like, things I don't like, and things I want to rework, and all that stuff. So if you're interested in like video editing or kind of like background stuff like that, you can at least get my take on it. I'm not going to pretend that I'm the greatest video creator in the world or I have profound, deep cinematic insight, but you know, people enjoy my stuff, and I figure at least some people maybe want to hear the type of stuff I'm thinking of when I'm making videos that are longer form and more formal like that. So if that interests you, that would be the tier to find that. And then also, I also at that tier write a monthly blog post every month where I just kind of talk about whatever's on my mind, and those vary greatly in what they're covering. It can range from like video game stuff to personal life, things going on, workplace stuff, politics, just stuff that's going on in the broader internet, or just fun things I have going on in my life. It really varies in mood and scope and all that. So if you just want a little bit more rosin in your life, that's the one to go for that. And then of course there's the final $15 Newtype tier, which that's just the one that I have my monthly vlog series I do called Rosenbrand's Treehouse, which is probably the most personal video series I make. So if you really want to get a deeper look at shit that's on my mind, that's the place to do it, other than my personal Twitter, obviously. Yeah, like the monthly blogs, they really vary in scope from all sort of topics. And yeah, just in general, if you're more interested in something that's kind of closer to home and just a little more chill and me hanging out and talking about whatever the fuck for 10 minutes, it's a good one. I have a lot of fun recording those, even though that I don't have a lot of patrons at that tier. The last thing to note about Patreon is that some of you may remember when I was doing Last Heart Left, the podcast, which don't worry, we're going to talk about that too, because that's been gone for a bit, but I want to bring it back. I did have a $12 friend of the show tier, which was a tier that I had that I thought was a really good idea, and I thought it would be a fun idea, where I allowed patrons to advertise on my podcast. So basically I was like, instead of doing like the generic like podcast, whatever the fuck thing, where like, I advertise for Manscaped or, like, I don't know, other random shit that you get podcast ads for. It'd be kind of cool to just let my patrons advertise their personal projects or whatever they want to shout out and give them the means to do that on there. And I allowed that for $12 a month, which was pretty cool. And, I thought it was a good idea. And it was, for advertising on a podcast, from what I understand, that's a pretty good price, I guess. I'm not super familiar with the advertising rates for podcasts and stuff like that, just because usually I don't worry about advertising in my podcasts. I just kind of have them up on YouTube, and they handle that for me. Or people support me through Patreon, obviously, so I've never really partnered up with, like, advertising networks for podcasts and stuff, but I just thought it was a fun idea. And then I ended up talking to a friend of a friend who had a pretty in-depth legal background. And he essentially told me I was kind of opening up a can of worms that might lead to trouble on, like, a long enough timeline, and there's a reason that other podcasts don't necessarily do that type of advertising, where it's like a Patreon, like, tied to a Patreon reward tier thing. So even though my channel's pretty small and under the radar, all things considered, that kind of scared me straight on the subject. I'm like, it's kind of better safe than sorry that maybe I cut that tier and not do that in the future. So, yeah, actually, speaking of podcasts, though, let me give some updates on those, because I figured some of y'all, really big fans of the podcasting type stuff I've done, and figured you might be wondering what's going on with those, because I've had a couple different podcast type stuff that I've done before. So, going in chronological order, I think this is kind of something that I've been meaning to talk about for a while, or I don't know if meaning to talk about for a while, I kind of don't want to, but something that I think a lot of people have been wanting an explanation for a while. So let's talk about We Are Finally podcast, and I have a little, the heading of this section of my script is called Cutting Ties with a Certain Former Collaborator. I'm sure if you've been subbed to me for a while, you know who I'm talking about. So yeah, some people asked, over the past few months, and God, it's getting close to like a year and a half at this point, I want to say, what happened to We Are Finally podcast? Why isn't Zach showing up in videos and stuff like that? And at this point, I think it's pretty obvious to anyone who's been paying attention, I guess, but I am no longer friends with Zach, and we will not be working on any projects together in the future. There's a long story about why that happened, and frankly, I'm not completely comfortable talking openly about what happened, and really it's not other people's business, but it also kind of is, because, like, we did do stuff publicly together. I don't know, it's weird. But, I just get a lot of questions about it. People asking if we're ever going to Let's Play Drakengard 2, where he is, why he's not showing up in videos, why the podcast ended, all that stuff. I'm going to keep this brief and not go really in depth with it. And also, part of that is just because I don't want to talk about it because it's not great, but also a lot of our mutual friends were involved, and I want to respect their privacy and, not speak about their experiences, because it involves many other people other than just me and him. What it basically boils down to, though, is that towards the end of 2018 and into 2019, Zach started to treat me and a lot of our mutual friends very poorly. I kind of at least want to paint a broad picture of what happened. He just would become very aggressive extremely aggressive with people if he felt slighted in any way, to the point that some people became very nervous to just be around him, and just felt like they were walking on eggshells, or just terrified he would go off on them. Just that anxiety of, is he going to blow up at us? He also started to act very controlling in some ways of certain people and how they chose to spend their time. There was a point where one friend and I got new jobs kind of around the same time, and they were jobs that required more time, like there were more hours. And we both had noticed separately that he started to treat us differently because of that, as if the fact that we had different responsibilities in our lives and all that was something to, like, hold against us, or, like, he was mad that we couldn't spend as much time hanging out with him anymore, which was really weird. Even, like, there would be stuff, like, if people wanted to go, like, if two people in our group would decide to play a game together, sometimes he would get mad if he felt like he was being excluded, even though it was just a thing where, like, one person would be like, oh, you want to play this game? And the other person would be like, yeah, you know, like, just stuff like that could set him off. And he just had a problem with not respecting people's personal boundaries, and when people would try to reinforce their, you know, what their lines in the sand were. He had a habit of pushing back on people and often demanding a level of personal access that hadn't been earned or people weren't comfortable with, even if he felt like it was earned, which led to problems, of course. Overall, he just wasn't being a good friend, and he did not treat a lot of people right, including me. It reached a point towards the end of 2019 where we basically came together to tell him that he either needed to start treating us with more respect and just treating us a little bit better as a friend, or he should leave the group. And instead of improving his behavior, he basically decided to leave. So yeah, if you wonder where Zach went, that's what happened. And yeah, tying in with that, part of the reason that WAFP, We Are Finally Podcast, that's the funny name we called it, started to update so infrequently in like late 2018 to 2019 was because we only ever really recorded stuff when he was getting along with everyone, and as time went on, that just became more and more rare, and things just started to go south. It didn't really help that when there were times where he would get mad and we would try to reach out, and we just wanted to talk things through like adults and just talk about what we were concerned about and talk like, okay, what's the problem here? What can we do to alleviate things? And he would refuse to speak with us and instead tweet out about how mad he was at people, and he would never like name names, but he would allude to people in a way that it was extremely obvious who he was always referring to, and that just made all of us feel great. And over time, it just kind of, the relationship crumbled, and it was just a prolonged thing that made 2019 really fucking suck for me, and a few other friends too. Just, there was a lot of free time dealing with his bullshit or helping mutual friends after he had hurt them in some way. And it reached a point where I considered deleting all the stuff we had made together on this channel because I just didn't feel great having it up, but at the same time, the only people that I think he really had an impact on throughout the situation were my friends and I, and we've all mostly made our peace with it. And I don't think it's like something where he like went out of his way and hurt other people, at least that I know of. So I decided to keep them up because the people who were affected by the situation are all people I know and myself, and we're fine with those being there, and leaving the past in the past. I don't ever want my channel to be a place where people can find a platform who treat others wrong or stuff like that necessarily, but at the same time, it's not like I think he's a bad person, I just think he was a bad friend. And from what it sounds like from former friendships and stuff that he had gone through, it sounds like we weren't the first group of friends that had similar problems like this with him. So yeah, God, I'm getting a little emotional talking about this, but you know, whatever he's doing now, I hope that even though we had a falling out, I hope it was a reflective experience for him, and I hope it was used as an opportunity for some self-growth and to maybe learn to treat people you call your friends a little bit better than how we were treated, because it kind of sucked. As it stands now, I don't think any of us would ever be comfortable ever talking with him again. He caused a lot of people a lot of stress, anxiety, frustration, just a lot of pain over so many months. And a lot of people are still working through it, me included. I don't regret the time I spent making stuff with him, because there's a lot of good times. I know we were both really proud of the things we made together, which is part of the reason I want to keep them up, too. To me, it feels like a testament to the high points of the friendship, or the good times we shared together, in spite of where the friendship ended up going and how it ended. Personally speaking, I think it's really hard for me to go back to any of those old videos or podcasts and try to enjoy them, or just look at them and see them for what they used to be. But I hope it isn't like that for other people. whatever ended up happening between us, we both made those things with the intention that they could brighten up someone's day or they could be enjoyed. And at least in my opinion, I hope there's still things in there that we made together that people can enjoy or still find comfort in, even if I personally can't. Yeah, this is still, it's still a very painful thing for me to talk about, and one I hope all of you can kind of respect my privacy regarding. I don't want to put up with people grilling me for more details or you know, asking intrusive questions if you guys could not do that. Like I said, it was a private situation between friends, and it left quite a few of us feeling hurt in ways that are still being dealt with. It's just something I want to move on from and leave in the past, and the only reason I'm even really talking about it at all is because I've just gotten so many questions over the months about him or stuff that we used to make together. So, with, yeah, We Are Finally podcast is done, if it wasn't clear enough already. But yeah, with We Are Finally podcast being done, though, many of you may have remembered that I did create a new podcast late last year called Last Heart Left. I will admit this podcast was made at a point where it became clear to me that We Are Finally podcast probably wasn't going to be coming back, and that ship had sailed, which bummed me out because I really love making podcasts. And just following the advice of some friends, I decided, you know what, no, we can make our own podcast and just have fun with it. And, you know, I figured I would just make it as a show with no permanent co-host and just something that people could participate in or people could jump in on whenever I felt like inviting them or, you know, they wanted to come on or whatever. And, you know, they were friends with me or whatever. And we could just talk about whatever. At the same time, I did want to try something a little bit different just because I had been doing We Are Finally podcast for so long. I thought it would be kind of fun to make Last Heart Left more of a topic-driven podcast that was more dedicated to a specific theme or topic of conversation than the looser kind of casual style of, all the stuff that we want to talk about that we've been consuming that We Are Finally podcast sort of was. And I don't really think the new approach worked out for Last Heart Left, at least not how I expected. As it turns out, me and my friends have a wide variety of interests, and they don't always overlap. So sometimes it would be hard to talk about media or games or whatever that we were all familiar with and something that all overlapped and we could make something really focused about, unless it was something like a spoiler cast, like the Johnson and I did the episode on the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which I still really like. If you haven't gone back and listened to that, I think that's a good podcast. But, you know, like, aside from that, or just like, me and Fang played the first 5 hours of Dragon's Dogma or Disco Elysium or, you know, stuff like that, it could be really hard to find specific games or whatever to come up for topics for podcasts and stuff. So at this point, I think I'm ready to throw in the towel and admit that the new format just did not work. But, you know, you kind of learn things like that along the way, and experimentation is not always going to work out. I may have been experimenting for the sake of experimenting, and it kind of blew up in my face, so I'm sorry about that. I should have been doing something probably more in line with what people came to expect from my type of earlier podcast, like We Are Finally podcast. I still really miss podcasting, and I've spoken with a couple people about reviving Last Heart Left with a more casual We Are Finally podcast style format, and you know, people are, you know, friends and stuff are interested, so I think it's just a matter of time before we end up doing it and have the right things to talk about for it. We might still do more focused episodes every now and again and spoiler casts and stuff like that, but only when it feels right, and, you know, probably just have something a bit loose like my older school style podcasts and stuff like that again, because I think that'd be really fun to do. I don't know, we'll see. I'm really itching to podcast again, but it might be a bit before I go back into the swing of things. The truth is, too, also, just my friends and I are all getting older, and it's not always easy to coordinate things like this schedule-wise and keep them as a consistent thing. But seriously, trust me when I say I want a podcast again, and it's something I really want to focus on, especially in 2021. I really fucking miss podcasting. It was a major passion of mine that I feel like kind of ended up getting lost due to unfortunate circumstances, but it's something I absolutely still feel a tug on my heartstring to go do, and I really want to do it again. So, but yeah, speaking of podcasts, sometimes people ask if me and my friends would be interested in making a continuation of YIIK Pics, or at least another type of book club style podcast for other games, kind of playing through and maybe not riffing on them necessarily, but providing commentary or insight or discussion in the same way. A lot of people actually really want us to revisit YIIK, funny enough, because a few months back, I guess Axe Studios, the people who made YIIK, apparently announced that they were working on an update that overhauls the gameplay in a massive way, and I don't know. As of right now, none of us, we're all aware of it, trust me, but none of us are particularly interested in revisiting it, and I kind of doubt that we ever will be. I think we've had our fair share of YIIK, and I think everyone's kind of said what they want to say about YIIK already. And at some point, there comes a point where it kind of feels like you're beating a dead horse, and I think we'd kind of be doing that by going back to YIIK again. As for making a new podcast in that style, though, we're open to the idea, but it's also something that I think we even touched on this and why it's difficult in the YIIK Pics podcast itself, but it's just kind of hard to find a game that's conductive to that style of podcasting. It has to be something that's clearly segmented out, like how YIIK was with its chapters, or just distinct individual parts that you know to stop at if you're just playing through it. Like a book with chapters or something, and a lot of video games don't have that type of format, and it has to be a game that all of us would be interested in too, or at least enough of us would be interested in to get a good podcast crew going for it. So yeah, if the right game comes up, we're all open to the idea. We've all talked about that before. We'd be more than happy to try that sort of podcast again and make it a cool new thing, but it's also something we don't want to try forcing. That's a really easy thing, especially because so many people liked the YIIK one to be like, oh, let's do this game or whatever, and we don't want to force it and make something subpar. We want to make something we actually want to talk about and play through and all that stuff. So if you're looking for us to, dive deep into a game in a podcast, you're more likely to see us doing some spoiler casts or maybe the occasional dedicated Last Heart Left episode, rather than making a new specific podcast YIIK Pics style for it, at least in the near future, but you never know. We might discover some weird wacky game that we never knew about that we all want to play and talk about or whatever. That it's always possible that might happen in the future. So, let's talk about Let's Plays. Actually, before I talk about Let's Plays, I'm gonna go grab a drink because my throat is already going, Jesus. Okay, I'm back. So, let's talk about Let's Plays. Of all the video series I have on this channel, the ones I definitely get the most questions about are the Megami Tensei Let's Plays. With the series being as sprawling as it is, and the relatively low amount of other Mega 10 Let's Plays out there on YouTube, even now, which kind of shocks me, especially compared to other niche JRPG franchises. It's understandable. People want to know if I'm going to cover stuff and all that. So my current goal, obviously, is to get through that main route of Kyoyaku Megami Tensei 2 by the end of January. As of this recording, that means I really need to pick up the pace and get at least 18 episodes out in the span of 2 months. I'm not entirely sure if that will be possible, especially because December is the busiest month that I have at work. Or actually, second busiest with November being the most busy. But in spite of that, I'm going to try my best to hopefully get that done by the end of January. No promises, but that's what I'm aiming for. I understand that some people can find my long-winded release schedule for Let's Plays frustrating. Trust me, I really get it, and I genuinely understand that can really bum people out or really keep people from enjoying them as they're coming out. But I do, in the long run, genuinely think that they're better for it when everything is said and done. I don't want to record something half-assed if I'm not in the right mood for it. At the same time, even if I am in the right mood, I don't want to record something that feels rushed because I'm trying to talk over an episode and it's a busy night and I only have Like, you know, there are times where I have to record like a 25-minute Let's Play episode, and I maybe only have 30 minutes of my night to spare. And it could kind of come out feeling rushed because I'm so preoccupied with getting it right in one attempt or whatever, and I don't want to do that either because I think you can tell when I do stuff like that, or at least I can tell, and it bothers me. I think the videos are better when I take the time and I make sure I'm recording them and able to make them in the right environment. It is really just truly a matter of me finding the right time and place to record an episode. In my life, I want to make sure that my enthusiasm for the material comes through too, so that I can provide the best possible commentary and insight as much as I possibly can. I hope you can forgive me for admitting this, but there are times I finish working 8 hours a day and the last thing I want to do is figure out how to try to best overlay my personality and knowledge of a game over like 20 minutes of first-person dungeon crawler footage. There's just some days I get done with work and I just can't muster up the energy for it, and I don't want to half-ass it, like I said. I really love making these Let's Plays. Trust me, I do. I love the overwhelmingly positive response they always receive, especially the Megami Tensei ones. But the last thing I want to do too is burn myself out or fake my way through an episode when I know I could have done it justice if I had just given myself the ability to recharge a couple days. You all deserve nothing but the best quality I can provide, I really believe that, and when I finish a Let's Play, I want it to be something I can look back on with pride and something that I know I gave my all and something that I made that was special to me, and hopefully to other people too, and I don't want to think about all the corners I cut or kick myself because I know that, you know, episode 12 could have been better if I had just allowed myself to recharge emotionally before going into record it or whatever, you know. I don't want to be thinking about that stuff when it's all done. I know this approach isn't going to be ideal for many viewers, and I really do apologize for that. I know it isn't something that's... this isn't a style of uploading that's taken by many other YouTube creators, especially Let's Players who are more serious about the YouTube gig than I am. I mean, after all, the algorithm does reward consistency and quantity. It wants people to treat this like a job and follow a routine and a schedule as best as they possibly can. But at the same time, I mean, this process is also the same reason why many YouTubers who do this long enough cite creative burnout, overwhelming stress, all those sorts of problems you hear about that take a toll on people's psyche and just emotional well-being. And those are all the other sorts of problems that I really can't afford to deal with on top of all my daily stresses that come with just living my life normally and having a full-time job and other obligations and responsibilities in my life. I can't also be having this huge YouTube stress on me as well. This is something that needs to remain kind of off to the side of my life for the time being. And at the end of the day, I just know what's healthy for me. I know when I'm able to push myself and stress myself and give myself that little bit of extra juice in the chamber to get stuff done and have a streak of video uploads. And I also know when I need to take time off. I know when I need to get away from the screen and just relax and unwind a bit or just spend time with friends and make sure that other areas of my life are not being neglected as well. So please do not take distance between Let's Play updates as a sign of my personal laziness. Even, you know, admittedly, I will admit that sometimes I am a victim of poor time and project management, not product, I'm not making a fucking product here, or even just procrastination from time to time. You know, all of those sorts of human weaknesses do come through in my personality as well, just like I think all of you have dealt with that before too when there's something you're making. But if you like the stuff I make, I hope you can at least appreciate the fact that I am an adult with a career that often requires me to work well beyond the typical 40-hour work week. And, you know, I have friends, family, and other loved ones in my life who I want to spend time with and get closer to. And just a wide assortment of other hobbies beyond making videos that I also find personally fulfilling, and I want to spend time doing those things as well. And when I have the time, energy, and cash to spare, I like to do my part and get involved with social and political causes as well, and, you know, all that sort of stuff. Just many different aspects and things in my life that I want to spend time on, other than making videos as well. And, you know, those things all contribute to making me a more well-rounded individual and help foster I think a more rich personality and sense of self that I hope reflects on the videos I make. I think it makes me a better person, and as a result, you know, the personality that I then put onto the videos I make, I think is a little more interesting to people, and overall, I think I hope it reflects on the videos I make and makes me just a more well-rounded individual overall, and someone who's worth listening to the opinions of, I guess. I don't know. Or at least you like listening to the opinions of. So yeah, I know the lines I need to draw and what my limits are and how much of my life I can spend doing stuff like this. It might not be enough for some people, but again, that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. I just feel that in the long run, it allows me to keep making excellent playthroughs for you all, and just on a long enough time scale, it keeps me from feeling burnt out. You know, I can easily see me cramming out a couple more playthroughs and then being like, I need to take a long break because I just burnt myself out, and I'd much rather have a kind of extended and delayed loose update schedule where you get stuff over a longer period of time, but you'll probably end up getting more stuff than as if I just tried to rush it all and condense it down and do something at breakneck speeds, and then I end up hating making videos and I just give up because I could easily see that happen if I pushed myself too hard. But yeah, that being said, we're talking about Megaten Let's Plays, and I should get back onto that. So yeah, what's the deal with Megaten Let's Plays? What am I going to do after Kyoyaku and all that shit? So, I have a few things to announce. I think some of y'all are going to be happy about that. In some of my KMT2 videos, I've spoken about the fact that the announcement of the Nocturne HD remaster was one of the major kicks in the butt I really needed to get back into that Megami Tensei content-making mood. But also, considering its reception, I'm sure some of you are wondering what my thoughts are about it, and if I'd ever consider doing a Let's Play, especially because a lot of people have really turned on that remaster, and, you know, it's pretty clear it's subpar in a lot of ways. But before we talk about SMT3, we should probably talk about SMT2, which I know is one that y'all have wanted to hear me talk about for a while. So, ever since I completed my Let's Play of Shin Megami Tensei's Neutral Route all the way back in, like, September 2016, God, that's forever ago it feels like, people have really wanted me to do SMT2, and I think I'm finally in a spot where I'm ready to do that. I'm still in an SMT mood, and I think that even after I've played through Kyoyaku Megami Tensei 2, I'm still really going to be in an SMT mood. In fact, I'm kind of happy in a way that I didn't do SMT2 back in the day, because now that I've been able to play through Kyoyaku Megami Tensei 2, I'm more excited to dig into Shin Megami Tensei 2, because it takes a lot of inspiration from Kyoyaku, sorry, it just takes a lot of inspiration from Megami Tensei 2, I should say, because, you know, Kyoyaku Megami Tensei 2 is just the remade version, but Megami Tensei 2 existed on the Famicom before that. So yeah, after the Kyoyaku Let's Play is done, I do fully intend to take the time I need to start the process of Let's Playing Shin Megami Tensei 2, probably sometime early next year. It all depends on when I finish KMT2. Keep in mind, of course, I always want to do a full test playthrough of a game to familiarize myself with it before I actually start recording the footage that's used in those Let's Plays. So it might take a little bit into the year before those videos actually start to go up. SMT2 is a game, I'm going to admit, I am not super familiar with, but from what I can tell, it's a lot better documented online than than KMT2 was. So I imagine that initial playthrough is going to go a lot smoother than my initial KMT2 playthrough did. So, I think it'll probably be an easier project, and it's one I'm really excited for. I'm really excited to sink my teeth into Shin Megami Tensei 2. It just seems like a fascinating game, and I think it has a lot of the things I like about Atlas games in it. And I'm curious to see what my thoughts are on it after I beat it. So, of course, after completing SMT2, we would be in a perfect spot to play Nocturne SMT3, which is supposed to come out in the West spring of next year, I think is the release. Maybe I think it's spring 2021 they have for that. And you know, Nocturne is a game I have a lot of affection for. I played it on the PS2, played it on the PS3, played it multiple times. I played it on emulator. I did a stream playthrough of it once that was just a weird, fun time, I guess, all the way back in the day. But it's been a little while since I revisited it, but I'm really excited to go back and revisit it. But that being said, like, I'm sure a lot of you have seen, the HD remaster is already out in Japan, and it's received a lot of criticism. I'll admit, there's a few things people have issues with about it that I don't really personally care about or can easily overlook. Like, I do wish the game had the option for the uncompressed music, but the fact that it doesn't isn't, like, a deal breaker for me. I also think people make a way bigger deal out of the demon skill inheritance being randomized thing than it actually is. I don't know. It never really was a problem for me, and I guess it's, like, really annoying if you're the type of person who wants to have, like, complete control over your demon skills or whatever, but, like, I don't know. Nocturne's designed so that you really don't need to worry about that, and it's okay just keeping a few of the skills you want and just accepting that you're gonna probably lose a few when you get a new demon, and it's, I don't know. You get used to it pretty quickly. It's not that hard to it really is not that hard to adapt. People make a massive deal out of it, and I just don't fucking get it. I don't know. However, there are a lot of things too in that HD remaster that are very hard to overlook. The performance issues are comically bad. I'm sure y'all have seen the clips, but, like, Jesus Christ, the Switch port of that game seems awful. I keep hearing conflicting reports over whether or not the PS4 version is better or about the same. I don't know. I think I'm just gonna need to wait and fucking play it myself to see at this point. Yeah, I don't know. But also, other than that too, like, you can just tell the developers of the HD remaster really struggled with implementing the FMV cutscenes because it doesn't seem like they had access to the original footage. So, like, the game during cutscenes will, like, cut between, like, in-engine widescreen cutscene stuff, and then it'll go to, like, 4:3 with a shitty awkward border when the FMV starts, and it's so jarring, and it just really breaks the immersion, which is unfortunate because Nocturne is a really beautiful game, and it sucks that that's a problem that's plaguing it. It does appear that Atlas has somewhat heard about the criticism, though. I think I saw some articles going around that they heard about it, and they're, like, planning a patch or, like, seeing what they can do. Who fucking knows if they'll ever amount to anything, or if we're just gonna be left with the kind of crappy port that we have now. Like, I could see them maybe ironing out the performance stuff, but then the rest of the issues, like the FMV stuff, are still there, which would suck. But this does lead to the inevitable question I'm sure y'all were expecting this to lead up to. So, you know, this is clearly a flawed version of Nocturne, which is, in my opinion, a fucking JRPG masterpiece. Is it the one I'd be willing to use for a Let's Play? And my answer to that is, yeah, I think so, actually. There are a few factors to consider here, and I'll break them down as best as I can. I thought long and hard about this. The first for me is most obvious in that the majority of video game players have access to the Switch and PS4 before they do, like, a PS2 or PS3 at this point. So this is going to be the version of the game that's the most easily attainable for a wider audience, and I think it'd be natural for my playthrough if I ever did one to, well, I do want to do one, to reflect that, especially because, you know, I kind of, if you've watched my Megami Tensei playthroughs, you know, you kind of probably get this by now, but I do make those videos with the intention in mind that you may be not super familiar with the rest of the franchise and are getting into it, and, you know, I kind of gear things towards viewers who are curious about the game or want to learn more about it as much as I do people who want to use those videos as, like, a walkthrough or something to listen to while they play along with as well. So I think it would make sense that I'd be using the version of the game that new players would be most likely to have access to. Chances are most people are just going to see it on the eShop and pick it up, or the PlayStation Store and grab it, rather than look into it, realize it's a bad port, and then download the fan-translated version of the Rido version or whatever on PCSX2 and configure it so that it runs well. Like, there's always going to be people that are going to be willing to do that, and for a lot of games, I am that person, but I'm making a playthrough for the general audience as much as I am those people, so I think it'd make more sense if I do the version that those people are going to be familiar with. And also, too, I mean, that is a good segue. You know, this version of the game does include new content that was previously unavailable except for, like, a fan-translated version, and I'm sure that fan translation is fine. I've never personally played through it myself, but personally speaking, at this point in my fandom of Japanese role-playing games, I'm just more interested in playing the version that's professionally translated rather than something that was done by fans that I'm usually dubious of the quality of. So yeah, I'm interested in seeing the Rido stuff in English from Atlas USA, I guess you could say too. And also just third, I don't know, this is kind of a silly reason, but it just gives me more stuff to talk about, and it kind of makes my life easier. You know, when you're talking over these JRPGs, sometimes it can really feel like, oh, you know, I need to be able to fill time and make this interesting and have enough stuff to talk about, and this would just give me another aspect to kind of critically analyze the game through. You know, as the video game industry gets older with each passing year, games preservation and the subject of re-releases and how they preserve the legacy of games, those topics are becoming more and more important as the medium gets older. And from my perspective, I think playing through the HD remaster of Nocturne as a longtime fan that's pretty familiar, you know, I've played through that original game quite a few times. I think it would give me a lot of interesting things to talk about as a longtime fan as we go through the game and being like, oh, I like that, or oh, I don't like their take on this, or oh, I remember this looking different, you know, like stuff like that. That I think that would give me a lot of fun new stuff to talk about other than just doing the vanilla, like PS2 releases of the game. So yeah, in addition to just sharing my love of the source material, I'd also like to be able to weigh in on just my thoughts on the remaster in general and kind of see how it does as a preservation of the original game, warts and all. And you know, also too, unlike a lot of the other Mega 10 titles I've covered, there's really no shortage of Nocturne playthroughs y'all can watch out on YouTube. That game's been covered well and by a bunch of different people that I'm sure did a wonderful job. So, you know, I might as well do something that's a little different. The PS2 and PS3 ports of those games have been done and covered well, but there's not many people who have playthroughs of the HD one up, so I might as well be that person and just, you know, make something a little different than what already exists out there that you can already easily see. So, long story short, after KMT2 is done, I want to do Shin Megami Tensei 2, and then after Shin Megami Tensei 2 is done, I want to do Nocturne. Hopefully I can do SMT2 before Nocturne comes out, but I'm also not going to bank on that. Y'all know how long it takes me to get a fucking Let's Play done. But in an ideal world, I would be able to finish SMT2 before Nocturne. I'm guessing that the game will probably come out in April or May, so that really doesn't give me a lot of time to work with if I'm going to end KMT2 around end of January, so we'll see how this goes. Of course, if I have to start the playthrough a little bit after the game came out, it's not like it's the end of the world or whatever, but, you know, it'd be nice to make it timely, you know. Obviously not like day one or anything like that, but it would be kind of nice to be able to start playing that game and, you know, just have it close to the release date when people are most interested in it, especially people who are more unfamiliar with the series or approaching that game for the first time. So, and you know, when I Let's Play that game, it's gonna be on fucking hard mode. I fucking love Nocturne's hard mode balancing most of the time. The currency prices, like the prices towards the end of the game are horrible, and it makes you grind for hours. But aside from that, Nocturne on hard mode, just wonderful JRPG difficulty balancing. It's such a joy to play through. I can't wait to. God, I'm getting really excited about the idea of Let's Playing this game, even if it's a crappy port of it. God. But it also begs the question, when am I going to consider Kyoyaku 2 done? You know, it is a game that features two different routes for the player to go down. There's a true route that leads to a good ending, and then there's a standard route that kind of leads to a bad ending. The playthrough I'm doing right now that I have fully recorded is the one that leads to the good ending, that you got to do a bunch of extra stuff to do. But I do want to go back through and record a playthrough to show off the unique elements and alternate ending of the other route, too. Especially because Kyoyaku added some exclusive content to that route that's kind of like fun bonus type stuff. And I'd like to cover that at some point as well. But chances are I'm going to be a little tired of KMT2 by the time I finish up the initial playthrough as I have it recorded now. So whenever I do feel the need to revisit it, I'll go back through and record the second route and edit together like a kind of like a highlight reel style of the most noticeable differences. And then just cut them together into probably a couple different videos and have them at the end of the playlist as bonus content. Who knows when I'll get around to doing those. I'd estimate probably about like the first half of 2021 or something like that. And, you know, some of you longtime fans of my Megami Tensei Let's Plays might be thinking, hey, Rosin, you never did get around to recording the Law and Chaos routes of Shin Megami Tensei 1. And, you know, you're right, and for a long time, I kind of just thought that those wins had passed me behind, and I probably wouldn't. But I am happy to report that after basically spending like 3 hours digging through some old hard drives, I was actually able to somehow manage to find my old SMT1 ROM and save game that and all the save states that I had used to record that Let's Play all the way back in like 2016. And considering I recorded that playthrough like 2 laptops ago, I'm really kind of impressed I didn't end up losing that somewhere along the way. But no, I got it. And I'd love to record the Law and Chaos routes and finally cover them like I originally promised I was going to. And kind of like the additional route stuff I want to do for KMT2, it'd probably be something I do more of in like a highlight reel style, where I showcase the most noticeable differences between the different routes, rather than it being like a more comprehensive playthrough type thing. And, you know, I'd probably start that somewhere. I'd find a save game that's around like right before the alignment split or something like that, and then do it from there to cover the rest of those. I know it might be a little weird to go back to a Let's Play that's been kind of dead for like 4 years, but I wouldn't be against it. I probably would want to watch that original Let's Play again, just to refamiliarize myself with what I already talked about, so it's not like I'm repeating myself or whatever. So yeah, that might be a little bit of a tougher project, just because I need to refresh myself on kind of how that initial playthrough went, and then make something that's a logical addition to it, despite the fact I am a much different person than I was 4 years ago, and, you know, I have a much better mic and all that stuff, and a kind of a different style and a better command of editing and stuff like that, too. So yeah, I'm not against doing SMT1 Law and Chaos route stuff, and I'd probably do that sometime. I'd say probably middle of 2021. I think I'll probably finish KMT2 before I go back to SMT1 and 2, or sorry, SMT1's Law and Chaos routes rather. And just whenever I feel like I have the time to be able to do that. And yeah, I'm sure people are wondering about plans for like other Megami Tensei games. Like just the other day, I think someone asked me if I would ever do Majin Tensei. Sometimes people want me to do Shin Megami Tensei If, or like some of the early Persona stuff, and, you know, all that other stuff too. To be honest, I don't know what I'm gonna do after Nocturne. I think the logical thing to do would be SMT If, but at the same time, I feel like by the time I'm done with Nocturne, there's no telling what mood I'm gonna be in, but I'm probably gonna be SMT'd out for a little bit. I have to imagine. So who knows? Yeah, like really, who knows what mood I'll be in when I finish Nocturne? But it might be a good place for me to take a breather on the Megami Tensei stuff and just focus on other shit. And, you know, I don't think y'all would mind, because if I do SMT2 and Nocturne, that's two big things that a lot of people have wanted me to cover for a while now, right off the bat. So yeah, the way I see it, there's kind of like 4 tiers of priority when it comes to my Megami Tensei projects. The highest priority obviously being Kyoyaku Megami Tensei 2. Gotta finish that up, of course. Finish my plate. Below that, my second highest priority is making the Let's Plays for SMT2 and Nocturne HD. And then at that third tier, I would want to finish up the alternate routes for KMT2 and SMT1. And then at the very bottom tier would be just other Megami Tensei Let's Play stuff, which it's a long ways off. I don't even want to think or commit about any of that right now. But, you know, there's other Megami Tensei stuff I'd really love to Let's Play or talk about in a longer form that I find interesting, and I would love to share my opinion on. So yeah, aside from Megami Tensei, I do also get a lot of questions about Drakengard 2 and Nier. So as I discussed previously in the video, go ahead and skip to that in the table of contents if you didn't listen to it. But I'm no longer collaborating with Zach on future projects, obviously. So any Drakengard and Nier playthrough stuff that I would do in the future, I'd either do alone or with a different co-commentator. Zach and I actually got pretty close to almost starting a playthrough of Drakengard 2, but nothing came of it, and obviously we went our separate ways now. I did really enjoy the dynamic we had as we went through Drakengard 1, though, with me playing the game and researching it a little bit, and just getting a more in-depth familiarity with it, and he was basically seeing it, knowing a little bit of stuff by either by proxy or by reputation, but mostly going in with a set of fresh eyes to be able to get that raw reaction. I think that was a real winning formula, and something I really wanted to do for Drakengard 2 as well. But, you know, I kind of asked around my broader social circle to a few people to see if they would be interested in doing, like, a Drakengard 2 Let's Play with me to kind of attempt to kind of keep that dynamic somewhat intact, even if it was with a different co-commentator. But, nobody was really that interested. I spent a while asking around, and at the end of the day, people mostly declined or just didn't really have it in them to want to talk about Drakengard 2, which I totally get, you know. That's not a game everyone wants to spend time doing a full Let's Play for or anything like that. So if I ever did make a Let's Play of Drakengard 2, it would probably be solo. I don't know if I would do Drakengard 3 or Nier, if people might be interested with co-commentating with me on those. I don't know. So yeah, I know that might disappoint fans of the original Let's Play, but I'll do my best to make it interesting, even if it's solo. You know, by now, I think I have a pretty good handle on making Let's Plays solo and making them interesting, or at least stuff that people find interesting to watch after doing so many of the Mega 10 games by myself. That being said, Drakengard 2 is still kind of low priority for me. Well, I don't want to say low priority, because I do want to do it. But it's lower in priority than the Megami Tensei stuff I talked about just a little bit ago, for a variety of reasons. For one thing, it seems like there's a lot of people who watch that Drakengard 1 Let's Play and stuck around the channel, and they just want me to skip a playthrough of 2 and just go right ahead to Nier, which I get. You know, that's just because Yoko Taro wasn't as directly involved with Drakengard 2's creation. He was more, I believe he was like cutscene direction and cinematics and stuff like that. He didn't really have a lot of sway or control over the story and the characters and where all that went, and, you know, the overall writing and tone. So I understand the sentiment, but I also, I still think Drakengard 2 is a game that's interesting and worth looking at, even if it is kind of a black sheep in the series. I think it's really interesting seeing the ways it attempts to follow in the footsteps of the original while kind of going its own separate way at the same time. I think there's a lot that can be done in terms of critical appraisal of that game and seeing where it flopped and why so many people have a distaste for it. But also there are a few things that game does that are, in my opinion at least, kind of cool. So I think that would be a really fun game to Let's Play. As for Drakengard 3, Nier, and Nier's upcoming remake, and Nier Automata, I wouldn't expect anything for some time if I ever do them at all. For one thing, I'm also not really entirely convinced that Nier remaster or remake or whatever they're calling it that's coming out next year. I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being a massive departure from the original, to the point where it might be worth doing a Let's Play of the original Nier anyways, because they might end up being very different. It would be very in line with Yoko Taro's other works to throw a curveball on us like that and make a new version of Nier that's something that's really unique and isn't so much a replacement of the original game as it is like a completely new experience that uses it as a base, if you get what I'm saying. So we'll have to wait and see actually, you know, what that actually is when it comes out next year. So yeah, in other words, Drakengard 2 is something I'd like to do maybe next year, maybe after, but my Megami Tensei projects are something I want to focus on more for instead. Again, I don't want to force myself to commit to something if I'm not ready for it or not passionate enough about it at the time, so I'll put it this way. Drakengard 2, I'm definitely still interested in Let's Playing it. Other games, maybe, we'll see. I don't know. I kind of feel like I need to Let's Play Nier at some point, especially because my channel icon is the chibi Nier. I feel like that's a game I should probably talk about. I obviously have a lot of strong opinions about it, and I like that game a lot, so... You know, and then as for other Let's Plays, I have a few things to speak about as well. My friends and I have gotten pretty far into Bugsnax, which we've been streaming, I'm sure you've noticed. And I fully plan to continue that whenever we all have the free time. We're pretty close to the end, I think, actually, so We're going to do as much of the side content as we can before completing the game. I was wondering, should we just, you know, kind of call this a day and go towards the end? But I ended up looking up Bugsnax stuff. I was like, is the side stuff worth doing? And there's like boss fights and shit, I guess. It's weird. So I think we'll end up doing a lot of the Bugsnax side stuff and then doing a kind of complete stream playthrough of that game. I don't know how many more sessions we have of that in the chamber before that's done, but other than Bugsnax, which is really fun, by the way, too. If you haven't checked out our Bugsnax streams, that's just a goofy game. It's a good time. It's fun. It's fun. But other than Bugsnax, there are several Let's Plays that were kind of left in an unfinished state or in a state of hiatus that some of you may remember. But I figured I would go back and kind of touch on each of those. So some of you may have remembered the stream series I did where I played through Steel Battalion. Which I did like 5 streams of, and eventually said I was going to finish it as a more traditional Let's Play, where I would just go through and record the last few missions I needed to beat to finish the initial, because there's kind of 2 campaign modes of Steel Battalion. There's like a normal mode one and like an advanced hard mode one, and I wanted to complete that first one as a more traditional Let's Play. I only had like 3 missions left. Unfortunately, I never got around to recording the commentary for it, but I do have the footage still. And sadly, my memory of that game has faded a little bit, so I would have to, again, kind of SMT1 situation, refamiliarize myself with those streams and kind of what I said in them. But it is something I want to finish, you know, I might as well. I only have like 3 episodes of that to put up, and then it would be done. It'd be a fun one to do, just to give that one a proper ending that it deserves. Some of you also may remember that Zach and I were streaming like Croc 2 and joking around about like streaming Croc games and all that stuff. I think it's safe to say that those streams are dead in the water. Croc was kind of just a funny shared nostalgia thing Zach and I both had. But it's not as fun. It's not nearly as funny or as fun for me to go through and just do that on my own. So yeah, don't expect any Croc shit from this channel in the near future. I can't believe I have to say that, but you know. And also, speaking of stuff I did with Zach, we also one time streamed through a point-and-click adventure game called Uninvited, which is one of 3 games that made up the 8-Bit Adventure Anthology Volume 1, which also, weirdly enough, I don't think they ever came out with a Volume 2. I don't know what they would have done for that, but I don't know. Maybe one day they'll come out with that, but I named the series like Let's Play 8-Bit Adventure Anthology Part 1 with the idea that we might revisit the other games in that collection and stream the other 2 titles in there. But we just never got around to it. If I'm ever able to convince some friends to stream those games with me, I might get back to it. Those games are the Mac Venture games, or at least the NES ports of them, and they're a really funny, fun time. Just classic point-and-click adventure game bullshit. They're very goofy games, and I would love to cover Shadowgate and Deja Vu 1, which are the other 2 games in that collection we didn't play. But I don't know. If I ever have the time for it and feel like doing it and other people agree to do it with me, I'll do it, but it's a very, very, very low priority for me. Like, we're talking bottom of the barrel. So don't expect that in the near future, but it might be a fun one-off stream to do one day and then play the other one even way further into the future, you know. And speaking of streamed playthroughs, if any of you were expecting Trick and I to revisit our Path of Radiance playthrough, I think it's safe to say we're not really interested in continuing it, and also, even then, I don't think I even have that save file anymore. I think that was on a laptop that died, and I don't think I had that backed up to a hard drive anywhere, so we couldn't even do it if we wanted to. That was kind of a fun playthrough to do, just because Trick's very familiar with Fire Emblem, and I'm not as much. You know, I've played through a few of the games, but I wouldn't say I'm particularly great at them. And it was kind of fun having him guide me through it as someone who just kind of sucks at the games and wants to learn more about how to play them at kind of a better level. But yeah, I'm not against doing other Fire Emblem content type stuff in the future, but again, I'm the first to admit I am nowhere near an expert on Fire Emblem or knowledgeable about Fire Emblem stuff. In fact, it's actually, there's a lot of other strategy RPGs that I prefer. I'm more of like a tactics ogre, Final Fantasy Tactics guy. That's just kind of what I those are the types of games I grew up with, and I kind of got into Fire Emblem a little later on in my life, and it's never been a series that like fully clicked with me, you know. I do want to check out Three Houses at some point though, just in my own personal time, not as like a video series or anything, but you know, I want to give that series more of my attention because, you know, those games are obviously beloved by many, and I think I'd have a lot of fun with them if I sunk my teeth in deeper. But yeah, if I ever decided to do like another Fire Emblem Let's Play, it would probably be something that's closer to my Mega 10 or Drakengard playthroughs, where it's like heavily edited and like done post-commentary style. So yeah, that Path of Radiance playthrough is dead in the water and canceled. But, you know, I'm not against revisiting other Fire Emblem titles, maybe at some point in the future, if I ever feel like I could do a fun playthrough or something. I don't know. Maybe I don't have to be an expert to always Let's Play games. Maybe it'd be kind of fun to see me go through a Fire Emblem game as someone who is kind of struggling with it and not good at it. That might be funny in its own way, too. I don't know if y'all would be interested in that, I guess, let me know. But, yeah, I don't know. The only other Let's Play series that I think I really have to talk about are those Retro Monday Let's Play things I started earlier this year. I thought that would be a fun thing to do, especially with COVID getting everyone's mood down. You know, just nostalgic, fun playthroughs of old games would be kind of fun. And there's a lot of playthroughs I actually recorded footage for that. I just haven't gotten around to uploading them in a bit. Especially because Kyoyaku Megami Tensei 2 kind of took over my my personal passion mood, and is what I decided to focus on instead. So, yeah, I'll get back to that at some point. It's just kind of like Steel Battalion or whatever, where it's just a matter of me finding the energy to do it and having the free time. I'll probably sprinkle them out whenever I feel it's appropriate. Like, I have, like, Mega Man 3 through 6 all played through and recorded, and I just need to talk over those. Mario, Sonic, some other stuff. I would love to do other games in the future, like Star Fox and shit. It'd be a fun time. It'd be a really fun time, I think. So, yeah, look forward to retro Let's Plays whenever I feel like just, you know, they're easy and fun to make, and I think people at least liked the few of those I did between Mega Man and Ninja Gaiden and all that, so. But yeah, other than that, there's a few other, this is me. I'm gonna draw a hard line in the sand right here if you're listening to this. If you click to this in the table of contents, I want you to know what I am about to see from here. None of this is set in stone, okay? This is gonna be, these are vague ideas of shit I would possibly like to do in the future, but these are not promises. Do not be surprised if none of these end up happening. I would like to do a playthrough of, like, Demon Souls, and actually, I think I might start that up soon, even. That would be a little bit different than usual. I beat Demon Souls once before, several years ago, but my memories of it are pretty hazy at this point, not gonna lie. But kind of talking about that Fire Emblem thing, I possibly wouldn't be against doing. I think it'd be kind of fun to do a playthrough of the Demon Souls remake for PS5, but edit the footage down to cut out some of the excess downtime. And basically what I'm thinking of doing is doing a Let's Play of the Demon Souls remake, kind of in the style of my Drakengard or Megami Tensei videos, but it's not like an expert playthrough of the game or like a knowledgeable, very informed playthrough of the game like those are. It would be me fumbling around and trying to remember shit that from a game I played through like 5 years ago or whenever the fuck I played Demon Souls or whatever. And I think that could be really fun. It'd be kind of an experiment, and it'd maybe be a little awkward and imperfect. But that might add a charm to it that could be fun, and I get to make fun of myself in post-commentary, which is always something I really enjoy doing for some odd reason. And I think, you know, if that worked out, that might be a format that I try doing with other Let's Plays in the future, too. You know, I like doing the post-commentary Let's Plays. It's fun just to be able to play through the game and then go back later and, like I said, make fun of myself in the past for making mistakes, but also, you know, it's just something that's fun to do because I get to kind of collect my thoughts more, and I don't have to balance playing the game with giving the type of commentary that I like to provide, usually. You know, I kind of have a style. I think you're all familiar with it at this point. Not that I'm against doing, like, the more, like, live or traditional style Let's Plays where I'm talking and playing at the same time. Those are fun, too. But I think having several different Let's Play styles can be a little fun sometimes, too. So, I don't know. And then also, too, some of you may remember that right after I finished my Shin Megami Tensei 1 Let's Play back in the day, I started a playthrough of Transistor that ended up going nowhere. That was actually because my SD card that I was using to record that got corrupted. That fucking sucked. And it's a real bummer, too, because my SMT1, the last episode of that SMT1 playthrough actually ends with, like, a little tease for those of you who stick through the credits. There's, like, a little hum at the end. That's the main character of Transistor. That was supposed to be a fun little tease for my next Let's Play, and then I ended up having to cancel that when I made it, so that sucked. And that kind of soured me on wanting to do a playthrough of that game, even though Transistor is one of my favorite games of all time, by the way. Like, pretty sure it's in my top 5, maybe slipped down to my top 10, because Hollow Knight's definitely in my top 5 now, but I fucking love Transistor. It's a wonderful game. So yeah, I think that I'm probably going to do a Let's Play of Transistor sometime early 2021, just because it would be an easy one to do, especially. That game is short. It's a couple hours. It's an RPG you can beat in a single session, and I think it'd be a pretty fun playthrough to do, all things considered. But yeah, speaking very long form, this is more of the stuff I was talking about, what I wanted to say, line in the sand stuff that I might not end up doing. Beyond Demon Souls and Transistor, there's just a lot of ideas I have that are just ideas right now. They're literally ideas that maybe in the future I'll do these. And like I said, they might not ever see the light of day, but they're games I'm strongly considered doing, and I'm comfortable at least talking about in that realm. So, you know, after beating Dragon Quest 1 earlier this year, that was a fun playthrough we did. It only seems natural for me to do Let's Plays of at least Dragon Quest 2 and 3, possibly later games in the series as well. Personally speaking, Dragon Quest 5, I think, is one of the best JRPGs ever made, and it's a game that, at least in the West, maybe doesn't get a lot of love. But, you know, people who know Dragon Quest V know Dragon Quest V, and they know it's fucking fantastic. And I'd really love to share that love I have for that game with a wider audience, especially if you, like, you know, there's a lot of people that like RPGs, but maybe Dragon Quest isn't fully their thing, and I would like to make videos for those people and kind of share my love for that series and kind of at least give them an appreciation for why people love Dragon Quest, even though it's kind of it's the JRPG equivalent to very good tasting vanilla ice cream. Like, it's just simple and very pure and distilled, but it's still really fucking good. It's just not everyone's cup of tea, and I understand that, especially here in the West. So yeah, I definitely want to at least wrap up the initial Dragon Quest trilogy, but I don't have any concrete plans for now. That would be something that I would probably revisit far off into the future after Megami Tensei stuff and probably even Drakengard stuff. As for other Square Enix games, some of you who follow me probably know that I have a lot of love for the SaGa series. And also, if you're just familiar with JRPGs and you keep up with new releases and stuff, you may have noticed that, like, the SaGa games have really been... SaGa's going through a moment right now, even though that they're still very niche and very, like, a small part of JRPG fandom really knows or cares about the SaGa games, but they're getting a lot of really well-done re-releases time and time again, including, there's the upcoming SaGa 1 through 3 collection for Switch, and also they just recently announced SaGa Frontier Remastered. SaGa Frontier is a game I have a lot of love for. That game, I have so many childhood memories of SaGa Frontier, and I would love to do a Let's Play for that game. It would really I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. That game is very flawed and very weird and kind of bad in some ways, but it's a really interesting game and a kind of strange JRPG in the PS1 library that I'd love to talk about. It's just a great time. So... the only problem with covering SaGa is that I would want to start with, like, SaGa 1 through 3, but if I'm going to start with SaGa 1, I probably can't talk about SaGa 1 without having done a Let's Play of Final Fantasy 2, because SaGa as a series is kind of headed by the guy who was responsible for Final Fantasy 2, or at least, you know, the head director on it. And if I'm going to Let's Play Final Fantasy 2, I should probably Let's Play Final Fantasy 1, because that makes sense. And if I'm going to Let's Play Final Fantasy 1 and Final Fantasy 2, I would be damned if I don't also do a Let's Play of Final Fantasy 3, because that is a game I have a lot of affection for, and you're not going to meet many people in your life who have strong opinions about Final Fantasy 3. I am that person. I have a lot to say about that game, because that game is... bizarre, and the way that the 3D re-release of that game had a weird impact on it and how it's viewed in the West and people's experience with it, and it's something that is a topic I am very irrationally passionate about for some reason, and I would love to elaborate on those thoughts in a log form Let's Play one of these days. So yeah, you can see this is a very big Russian nesting doll situation. But you know, I'm that guy. If I'm Let's Playing or covering these games and giving them the time of day and being informative about them, I want to cover them from that historical perspective, and I want to play through the games that build up to them. I can't talk about SaGa 1 in good faith without also talking about Final Fantasy 2 and how that game worked. And I can't talk about Final Fantasy 2 without talking about how fucking weird it is compared to Final Fantasy 1, you know? It's just something that is true about my personality and how I experience games and how I talk about games, and something that it would be dishonest for me to talk about those games without covering the full picture, and that's just a commitment that is looming overhead and is very large for me, and something that I probably won't be able to commit to for a good while now. But just know that I have a lot of strong opinions that might come out in video form far off into the future about those. Other than RPGs, I know that's what a lot of you are here for, but there's a few action titles I'd love to cover as well. I've always thought it would be really fun to revisit the No More Heroes games and do Let's Plays of those, especially because they just got re-released for Switch and the ports are really fucking good. And also No More Heroes 3 is coming out next year as well, assuming they don't delay it again, but I trust they won't. It seems like they're basically done with it. But yeah, like, those first two games were really unique for the time that they came out, and they found a really dedicated fan base for a reason. And I think it'd be a lot of fun to look back on them and see how their satirical take on video games and their culture has really aged, because that was one of the big striking things about those games, is that it was kind of, they were video games that were kind of taking the piss out on gamers and the absurdity of how bad video game culture is, while also being wacky and very funny games in their own right. And I'd love to look back on those games with like a 2020 or 2021 lens and just kind of see how they've stood the test of time. I think that would be a really fun thing to do. Yeah, I played through a bit of the No More Heroes 1 Switch re-release, actually, and like I said, I was really impressed with it. It's just a really fun game. I like those two games a lot. So yeah, I'd maybe do that in the future, but also too, I'd love to do, this is really, I don't know about this one, I don't know if I'd ever do these, but deep down in my heart, I would love to do Let's Plays of the Devil May Cry games, but like very specific Let's Plays. I wouldn't do the thing that a lot of Let's Play channels do, where I just play through the game on the default Devil Hunter difficulty and just record an initial run. I would play through these games on the Dante Must Die. Excuse me, I'm getting a little burpy. I'd record my playthroughs on the Dante Must Die difficulty and do like S-rank runs. And I think that would be really fun. And I find that there's a huge disparity in the types of Devil May Cry content that exists on YouTube, at least from what I've been able to find. Because you have a lot of videos, obviously, from just like general like video game fans who are playing through and they're doing their initial playthrough and kind of playing through just in that way, and you know, that's perfectly fine, and that's what those games are built for, you know. But also, you then have the community who are interested in experiencing what's possible with their advanced combat systems and really pushing the game to its limits and making like combo videos or really advanced like skill tutorials and stuff like that. So there's a lot of really great low-level Devil May Cry content for people just playing through them and having fun times, because they're fucking fun action games, even if you aren't really all that skilled at them or you don't really practice them. But also, if you want to sink your teeth into them and get really good at them, you can do a lot of ridiculous stuff in them, and they're just so fascinating and such a joy to watch. If you're unfamiliar with Devil May Cry, I highly suggest you look up some Devil May Cry combo videos. Just watch a few and you'll fall in love, trust me, they just look wonderful. But there's not a lot of Devil May Cry content that's in the middle. But I think there's a lot of Devil May Cry fans that are in the middle, kind of like people like me who want to play these games or do play these games on the higher difficulty levels. You know, I've gone through some of these games on Dante Must Die and gone through playing them that way. and try to get my ranking up and S rank all of the missions and stuff like that. But you know, it's not like I'm good enough that I'm doing all of the super advanced tech, or you know, sometimes I attempt stuff and it doesn't really work out in my favor, but you know, I manage to slip on by regardless. But I think it would be really fun to do a playthrough kind of as someone who's at that mid-level of Devil May Cry skill, where I can get some S ranks on the harder difficulties and all that, but I really gotta work for them, and it's not something that I can really do with finesse and prowess. And just giving my advice for, you know, what players can do if they want to do the same. I think that'd be a really fun thing to do. So, yeah. Other than that, I think that's it for Let's Plays. Oh, well, no. What I would say though about Devil May Cry is, if I ever would do that, those would be playthroughs I would have to invest a lot of time into practicing. Though I wouldn't want to do that until I feel like I'm comfortable going through those games on Dante Must Die S rank, and I'm comfortable going through those games on Dante Must Die. Don't get me wrong. Not necessarily comfortable with getting the S ranks yet. Those can be quite tricky, and really got to push myself for those. So. Yeah, I'd have to practice before I even attempted to do that, so... that's it for Let's Plays, though, so let's talk about reviews a little bit. People who follow me for a bit know that every few months or so I usually crank out a review for a game, and I have a million different series for them, like RPG Rewind for RPGs, Mech Report for games that kind of play around with mecha tropes and theming and stuff like that, or Shuffle Time, which is more focused on, like, tabletop-inspired or card game-inspired type games and that are made in the video game format instead. Just, you know, different review series that cover different genres or styles of games and stuff like that. I also did once put out a review for Killzone that, shockingly, still gets a lot of views and comments to this day. A lot of people looking up Killzone reviews for some fucking reason on this site. And I made a series for that called What the Hellgast, and I said I would take a look at all the other Killzone games too, and I just never got around to it. I'm still not against doing that, and I still plan on doing that at some point, but let's just say my motivation to play more Killzone games really dwindled after beating that first one and getting some time away from it. I'm not particularly excited about going back into that universe. It's just... that first Killzone game is just really fucking dull. But, you know, I really do love making these reviews, and they're just some of the most creatively fulfilling videos I make, even though that they're also the hardest to make. And the most time-consuming, but also at the same time, too, you know, I do like seeing comments every now and again. People are like, man, I really wish you made more, like, video reviews like this. This is some of your best stuff. And I agree with you. It's just that, they're nigh impossible to comfortably fit into my life. Like, if I wanted to make more reviews and put them out at a faster rate, I would basically have to stop doing, like, Let's Plays and shit, too, and I know a lot of you wouldn't like that, so, I wouldn't do that. But I do still work on reviews and scripts and all that from time to time. Sometimes I shelve them because I realize they're not working out, but sometimes I just, I pick away at them slowly. In fact, as we speak, I'm currently working on and almost done with a review for the Famicom game Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam Hot Scramble, which actually has a more interesting development story behind it than I would have expected for, like, a Famicom Gundam game. I'm really excited to share that review with you and just kind of talk about it more in depth than, from what I've seen, the other, like, YouTube reviews for the game are very surface level and don't really give you the full story on its development, so I'm so excited to cover that for y'all. As a side note, I know I already have the dedicated Mech Report video review series, but I'd also probably, I think there's gonna be a high chance that I'm gonna review a lot of Gundam games in the future. Spoiler alert, if you can't tell by now from my channel, I'm a huge Gundam fan. So I'll probably make the Gundam game reviews its own separate series. I think I might call it, like, White Base Arcade or something like that. And I'll save Mech Report for, like, Front Mission and Armored Core and all those types of games. And then the Gundam reviews can obviously just go into their own playlist, so they're not hogging all the space there. Speaking of Armored Core, actually, I played through the first one a bit ago, and have been slowly picking my way through the second game, Project Phantasma, as well. And even though it's been a good bit since I first played through that first game, I think I finished it around the end of 2019, I have a good chunk of a review written for it that I need to get back to and finish up, because I have some strong thoughts about it, and the second as well. So expect reviews for those at some point. I really like Armored Core. Those are fun games. Those are really fun games. maybe they'd maybe be fun to Let's Play in the future too at some point, but I probably wouldn't do those until I beat all the games in the series, and I know that which Armored Core games are the best is like a hot topic, and I'd like to have a little more experience with all the different Armored Cores before I really start to speak about any given one, I guess, as like in a Let's Play style, I think. Other than that, I don't have much to announce about reviews. I know I've probably teased a few here and there, either on Twitter or in other videos and stuff. Like, I think one time I said I would do like a Monster Hunter World one. And truth be told, there's a lot of games I've recorded footage for and fully sat down and intended to write a review for, but then when I actually started writing, I'm like, I don't actually have a lot to say about this, or if I do have something to say, I'm not the person to say it, or other people have said it better, either in an article or another YouTube video or whatever. And yeah, I don't want to spend the time if that's the case, you know. I only want to record a review and say my thoughts and put it out in that style and dedicate all that time to it if I really feel like I'm bringing something unique and worthwhile to the table that hasn't really been said elsewhere, I guess. I don't know. This is probably just a lot of me, like, having self-doubt or imposter syndrome type stuff with, like, oh, is my word about this video game really worth anything, which I know is stupid and silly, but, you know, if I review something, I want to feel like I'm adding to a conversation, and I'm not just repeating commonly held beliefs that other people have probably said better a million times in the past, especially if it's, like, some fucking random game from the 90s or whatever. So yeah, you know, I think that's also kind of the spirit I have that kind of embodies the channel and why I cover so many random niche shit. You know, I only really want to talk about shit, or I really get excited when I'm able to talk about the more stuff that's a little more out there or people are unfamiliar with, and being able to share my enthusiasm for those things, whether I like them or dislike them. So yeah, like I said, I have multiple hard drives that have just so much footage of video game shit that's just begging to be used. So whenever the inspiration strikes, I'll be sure to try to crank out a review whenever I can. I'd like to do them faster than I'm doing them now, but like I said, with my job being how it is, and with how much time that those require in terms of editing and recording and smoothing everything out, and just even playing the game, it's probably going to be... reviews are probably going to be sparse on this channel. I don't think that realistically, I don't think reviews would come out any faster unless I end up getting a job that's a little better about my work schedule and gives me a little more free time. So, yeah, and also at some point too, I'd like to make just a general Rosin Reviews video series too. Which just would be a series for all of the reviews that don't really comfortably fall into the other categories I have review series for. Some of you may remember this channel used to be called... The real Rosin fans from back in the day may remember that this channel, before it was called Rosin Bran, was called Rosin Reviews. And then I changed it because I was like, I don't fucking review anything anymore. Fun times. And, you know, I'd like to review, like, manga and movies and comic books and books and all that other stuff too, but it would be a matter of finding the time for that, and I think that people come here to hear me talk about games and stuff too, so I know that'd probably be a smaller audience, but you know, I've been reading Dune for an extended period of time, and I'm right at the end, and I have a lot of strong opinions about the novel Dune. It's a very fucking good book. Not without problems, but you know, every piece of fiction is. Or even just talking about random anime and shit. Like, I'd love to do some long-form reviews about Gundam or something, but I'd have to find the right format for it, and also doing anime stuff on YouTube's always been tricky, and it's only gotten worse. Like, I don't know, I might do that as more of like a podcast format whenever I get around to wanting to do reviews for stuff that isn't games, just because I don't want to mess around with like footage for like stuff like that, because YouTube's copyright algorithms are a nightmare to deal with, and y'all know how it is. So yeah, other than that, I don't know, some of you might be thinking, like, Rosin, you don't need to have a bunch of different review series and categories for all of your different reviews, and, you know, you're probably right. I just think it's more fun this way, so that's why I have a bajillion different review series and playlists, even though that I usually do, like, 1 or 2 for each series and then move on to the next one. You know, those categories still exist, and I'll do more of them in the future. You know, I have that offbeat gaming one that talks about indie games, and whenever I get around to some more indie games I feel like reviewing, I definitely go back to that and cover some of those. So yeah, other than that, I do have some ongoing longer series too that are tucked away on my channel. Not as commonly watched, but they pop up every now and again. I have them actually on my channel. If you go to my channel front page, I have them tucked away in a section called Ongoing Sagas. Currently, this includes 4 different series. The first one I made that I stuck here was a Battle Royale series I made, where I'm like, oh, I'm going to play a bunch of random Battle Royale stuff like Apex Legends and PUBG and all that. And I quickly abandoned that because I got kind of bored of the whole Battle Royale genre thing. It just kind of tired me out after a while, and I didn't find them fun to play anymore, so I stopped. I might revisit it at some point if I ever feel the mood again. But honestly, the only Battle Royale that I'm really interested in right now is that Bomberman one that just came out, but it's also a timed exclusive for fucking Stadia, of all things. So I'm probably not going to check that out until it comes out for like PS4 or Switch or something, because I'm not making a Stadia account to play a Bomberman Battle Royale. It's just a silly thing to do. But I definitely want to see how a Bomberman Battle Royale works. I'd be really interested in trying that out when it comes out for something else. A while back, too, I also streamed 2 different times going through Devil May Cry 5's Bloody Palace modes, and I made them their own series called Tales from the Bloody Palace, similar to, you know, just my regular streams. Kind of like how I'm feeling with those possible Devil May Cry playthroughs. If I ever do more like Bloody Palace streams, it would be something that I'd want to work up to. It'd be something I want to practice at, and just make them something that are a little more exciting to watch than what they already are. You know, I don't want to just, like, every couple weeks stream Bloody Palace and it's just the same shit over and over again and no, like, marked, you know, improvement or anything. I want it to be something that's a little fun and something that I can get a little bit better at before I go into and start streaming again. But, you know, Bloody Palace is just a lot of fun in Devil May Cry, and I think that it's something that suits itself well to just having a chill stream and hanging out and relaxing and just, you know, having a good time. Devil May Cry is a fun game to stream, by the way. I know I did that Virgil run-through of the special edition recently, and if you haven't watched that and you're interested in Devil May Cry, you really should. It's a good time, and I'm really happy with my performance. But yeah, the most active series I have in the ongoing saga section, I guess, is Back Alley Knife Fights, which is the series where I slowly try to learn how to play fighting games and get a little bit better at them. I'm willing to go back to that series at some point, but in truth, I haven't really been playing fighting games because all of my competitive multiplayer time has gone to not a fighting game, but kind of a fighting game adjacent game called Gundam Extreme vs. Maxi Boost On, which I made a series for called Newtype Neplay, where I stuck together a few Emblem matches. That's how we refer to Maxi Boost On in the community. It's Emblem. And I just talk over them, and I've recorded a lot of episodes of Newtype Netplay. I mean, like, a lot. Like, I'm talking, like, I have 2 out right now, but I have footage for over 50 of them. I've played a lot of fucking Emblem this year. And I fully intend to start cranking those out soon, like, probably starting this week, actually. Which is going to be real fun, because, like, the first 20 episodes of that are going to be me playing, like, in the public beta for those games, or for that game, and then, like, I think episode 21 is when the full game first came out, I think. So you're gonna be able to see me not only playing Maxi Boost On matches with a bunch of different mobile suits, but also just me slowly learning how to play that game and getting, at least I think, a little bit better with time. Yeah, it's just such a fun game, man. If you've never tried out Gundam Extreme vs. Maxi Boost On, it's just a fun game, and the community's still alive and kicking, and I still hop on, and I see a nice blend of familiar faces and new players every time I hop in and join a lobby. It's just a really fun time. You should definitely check it out if you're interested in Gundam or just fun multiplayer games at all. if you want something that's like a fighting game a little bit, but very different and very resource management and mobility oriented, Maxi Bustan's the game for you. So that does lead me to just talking about some other stuff too. Just to close out this video, some of you may remember that I had that Bran awareness vlog series back in the day, where I talked about whatever was on my mind, and I used that series both as a vlog and also often as a thing to do for channel updates. But ever since I started my Patreon vlog series and I started using the YouTube community tab for giving you all updates and stuff too, I didn't really have a lot of incentive to continue Bran awareness. If I ever wanted to update someone, I'd just throw a thing out on Twitter or on the channel community tab, or if I ever wanted to vlog, I would just save it for the Patreon thing where, you know, those people probably care about it more than the general audience, I guess. I don't know. So, yeah, Brand awareness kind of died, but it's not, like, dead. Like, it's not canceled or anything, or shit-canned. You know, if I ever feel like vlogging to my general audience again, or have something I want to speak about that's, you know, just talk about whatever, I'd probably upload those again, but I don't know. It's not really a big priority for me right now. Just it served a purpose for the time that I made those, but it doesn't really serve the same purpose anymore with my YouTube and Patreon being what they are, I guess. There are just better avenues for me to do the things I did with that series, I guess. So other than that, the only series I really have to provide an update for is Build and Chill, the series where I build model kits, mostly Gundam, but I do plan on doing some non-Gundam stuff. And I just hang out and have a good time. Whenever I have the opportunity and feel like going back to it, I still have to finish up my live stream of the Master Grade Gundam Alex. I got halfway through building that on stream, if you remember, and I never went back and built the second half of it, so I gotta do that yet. More excitingly, at some point, I do need to go back through and share with you all the footage I recorded and the many pictures I took of the experience I went through fully hand-painting my first kit, the HG The Origin Zaku 2. You know, I've built many kits and done a little touch-up painting here and there, but I did it this summer. I went through, I got the kit, and I was like, I'm gonna prime this sucker up, I'm gonna paint it, and I just fully went through and hand-painted a Zaku 2 and then top-coated it all up, and it's on my shelf, and it looks beautiful, and I'm really proud of myself. It was just a really incredible summer project and just a lot of fun. It really brought me a lot of joy in an otherwise terrible year that is 2020. Just being able to spend some time just painting giant globs of green onto this silly little robot was quite a fun time, and I really want to make a video going through that process. It might be a little longer one, but you know, yeah, I think it's a logical next step to the Build and Chill series, where I was like, oh, I'm building model kits, and it's like, yeah, now I'm painting them too. So I can't wait to paint more kits whenever the weather gets better. It's just something I found extremely relaxing and rewarding. I just love building model kits. That being said, my recording setup for that series I've never been fully happy with. It isn't super ideal. My lighting for my room kind of sucks ass. And it's not ideal in any sense of the term, especially with positioning and how I have the camera type thing set up. And it's only gotten more impractical this year because, you know, I've been working from home due to COVID and all that. So the desk I normally use for building my model kits is now also like my makeshift work from home office setup. So it's always plastered with post-it notes and notebooks and other things, and you know, I have the monitor fully set up, and my work computer is almost always hooked up to it, and I have a bunch of different hard drives attached to my computer, and you know, a cable extender, and my work desk is kind of a mess, and whenever I build model kits I have to take all the shit off of it and then set up the recording and all that, so it's kind of a pain. But at the same time, I really do like making Gunpla building videos and just building Gunpla in general. It's a lot of fun, and I have a lot of well, I have some videos that are kind of in the chamber on that I have edited footage for, but I never talked over, which I know is a recurring theme for me, but trust me when I say that sometimes it's very easy to record something and edit it together, but finding the time to actually be able to just talk over the footage can be very tricky for me and my current living circumstances. So yeah, I don't know, just look out for that, I suppose. Yeah, I have a huge Gunpla backlog, actually, and a lot of premium Bandai stuff, too, that would be really fun to make videos for. Looking at you, Crossbow next to, I can see from the corner of my eye right now. So yeah, I think after Build and Chill, that's really all I had to cover. I did ask forever ago on the community tab for people to leave me some questions and stuff like that, so I'll answer those in a bit. But I do want to say, you know, if there's anything you have questions about in terms of what I talked about here, personal falling outs with best friends notwithstanding, maybe don't ask me about those. I don't want to talk about it, honestly. You know, feel free to ask me if you're wondering, you know, like, oh, remember this old thing you did one time? Would you ever go back and revisit that or try that again? Feel free to holler down below in the comments, and I'll try to provide you an update as best as I can. I'm sure there's stuff I forgot to talk about in this video, even though it's really long. I basically just went through my entire channel catalog and was like, what was left unfinished, what was left in hiatus, what do I need to get back to, all that stuff. You know, and I know I have a lot on my plate, and I always add more to my plate, and I'm pretty bad about being timely with things. But at the end of the day, what I want you all to know is that I like to keep my interests very varied. That was a bad way to say that. I like to keep my interests varied, extremely varied. There we go. That's a better way to say that. And let my moment-to-moment passions kind of direct where my creative energy goes whenever I have the free time and the passion. I know I say passion a lot, but that's really what it is. That's really what drives me. There's two things that drive me to make videos, and the first is spite, because a lot of the times the type of YouTube videos that I wish were made don't really get made, or at least not anymore. And creative passion. Just, I love the act of making things and hearing people's feedback from that. Those two things are really what drive me to make things, and they always have ever since I first started making videos. That's never changed. Those are the things that fuel me as a creator online. So yeah, you know, and also too, I know that I make a huge wide assortment of types of videos, and I don't expect everyone who watches my stuff or subscribes to me to enjoy or watch every single thing I do. That would be ridiculous. And that's more than fine. I don't mind that at all. Just know, though, that if I'm going through a stretch of time where I'm not making the type of stuff that you really follow me for or like, just know, and I hope you can appreciate that at least I'm finding enjoyment and satisfaction in making that stuff, even if maybe it's not your cup of tea. And even if it's not even something that's necessarily that popular. I mean, some of the most fun I've ever had making videos are stuff that, like, struggles to get a little over 100 views a lot of the times. You know, sometimes those are really what, you know, I get the most excited for making at any given moment, and what I really love to hammer out and hear people, like, you know, the people that do watch that stuff get their thoughts on and stuff like that. You know, I like to think there's probably another timeline or alternate reality out there where I doubled down on just making Shin Megami Tensei and Drakengard shit. And I feel like the Rosin in that timeline is probably a lot more YouTube successful, has a lot more views and subscribers, but also it's probably a lot more miserable and just bored. And that's not something I ever want this channel to be for me. I don't want it to be boring. I don't want it to be something I dread doing. I'm just going to make the shit I like whenever I feel like making it, and hoping people resonate with it, and you know, that's rad. But even if it doesn't resonate, that's fine too. You know, I don't expect everything I make to be a banger. It's just stuff that I wanna make. Like, you know, I made that fucking Blue Lick Road video series with some friends, and we didn't expect anyone to give a shit about that, and it ended up being super popular for some fucking reason, you know? It's just, you know, I throw darts at the wall and I see what sticks, really. And I just have fun with doing what I do. And I don't ever want it to be a thing where I'm having to force myself to make shit just because it's what people want from me. Even though, you know, I want to make stuff that people like and people look forward to, and I feel bad when, you know, I take time to make things, but I also don't want to, you know, I want to find the balance between those two things, and something comfortable that at least, you know, kind of bridges what everyone wants me to make with also what I want to make too. So, I think that's the best way to do that, and it's the healthiest way for me to go about that and still find passion and creative fulfillment making what I make. And you know, as long as a couple people are always watching, I'm gonna keep making the stuff that I want to make because it's fun. I always say this, but the truth still stands. I made my YouTube channel with the end goal being, hey man, if I ever got like 100 subscribers, I'd be good. I'd be set, you know? Like, I don't need any more than that. I just want to see if I can break that triple digit mark, and now I'm like I'm nearing 7K right now. You know, the growth has been maybe slow but steady is how I'd word it, and I'm totally fine with that, and I'm just going along the way, and I'm still just baffled that people like watching my stuff, and I hate to say humbled again because I said that about my Patreon supporters too, but I am humbled that people actually give a shit to watch the stuff I make, and it really warms my heart. Yeah, it's hard to comprehend sometimes that I get to make silly little videos like this, and people care about what I have to say sometimes, especially about like goofy old video games that are like fan translated from the 90s. It kind of blows my mind that anyone gives a shit. So, you know, I'm really happy, and I hope you're enjoying the ride as much as I am, and if you're maybe a little frustrated with me sometimes because I'm a little slow, I'm really sorry from the bottom of my heart. I am, but just know that I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to do my best, and I know what that is for me and what my limits are, and I'm just trying to work with what I have and what I'm able to achieve, while also, you know, doing a full-time job and life stuff and all that. So I'm starting to repeat myself now, so I should probably get into the Q&A section that I said I'd do. But yeah, just thanks for watching my stuff. It means a lot to me, whether it's weird Let's Plays or my streams or podcasts, or, you know, maybe I should do some. I didn't provide an update on tabletop stuff. Maybe we might do more tabletop stuff as a group of friends in the future too. We're currently doing a campaign of Beam Saber every week. We play every weekend, and it's been a real fun time. We just had our 20th session. Beam Saber's a good tabletop RPG, especially if you like mecha stories. Really fantastic game. Go look it up and go buy it. It's a good time. It's a good time. So yeah, maybe look forward to more tabletop stuff too. But yeah, whether it's that or, oddly enough, 3D house tours. Don't expect any more 3D house tours either, by the way. I don't think we'd ever be able to do that again. I don't know, I shouldn't say that. You never know. There's some fucking weird houses out there. But whatever you saw, whatever the fuck you subscribe to me for, or whatever the fuck reason you're listening to this and you know of my shit and you watch it, whether it's Drakengard or Megami Tensei or whatever, means a lot to me that you're still around and you engage with the stuff I make. Yeah, let's get on to those Q&A questions. Hold on, I have to go back to my community tab now, and let's just take these one at a time. Looks like there's 10. Manfroy and Arvis's Barbecue, I feel like that's a reference to something I don't understand, says, just would like to leave my appreciation for always making excellent Let's Plays. Really fun, packed with relatable stories, knowledgeable of the game, and interesting developments. Keep it up. Thanks. That's a really nice comment. That's the type of stuff that keeps me making stuff. Thanks. Lapsus asks, thoughts on future plans to play SMT 2 or 3? Well, I covered that in the video, so yeah, there's your answer. Evo, I think some of your most interesting videos were from the YIIK Pics series and everything surrounded that game. Are you interested in covering other weird games like that in a similar format at some point? Oh, well, I kind of covered that too, just by giving the update, so there's your answer. Audacious Bourgeois asks, whatever happened to Katsu from the Cathedral of Shadows podcast? I loved listening to that back when I was in high school. Whew, that was a while ago now that Cathedral of Shadows was a thing. But yeah, so Cathedral of Shadows ended because I just felt like I couldn't do it anymore, and I felt like I was reaching a point where I was getting burnt out with it, and I didn't want to keep up with the Megami Tensei fandom and its news and kind of be that focused on a thing for that long, and it just was a thing I really felt like, geez, I think I think I've done everything I wanted to do with this, and I approached Katsu and was like, hey, I don't really know if I want to do the podcast anymore, and he was like, you know, I kind of still want to do it, but if your heart's not fully into it, I don't want to do it either then if you don't want to do it, which is still something I really respect Katsu for doing. You know, he could have been like, no, we still got to do it or whatever, but as soon as he heard, like, I was having doubts or I felt like I wanted to move on and do some different stuff, he was very supportive, so I definitely really respect that. But, you know, Katsu and I were very good collaborators and very good, like, acquaintances that made good partners for co-hosting the podcast, but we didn't really hang out all that much outside of Cathedral of Shadows stuff, truth be told. You know, I kind of always viewed Katsu as an acquaintance and a partner, but we never really hung out all that much aside from that, and it's not like we disliked each other or anything. You know, we just didn't, I don't know, we just never really spent a lot of time together outside of podcast stuff, I guess. And, you know, we were mutuals on Twitter after Cathedral of Shadows ended and all that, but his Twitter account's been dead for a while. I think he kind of just left the internet after some point. Let me look. I don't think he's... yeah, like... The last thing he did on Twitter was a Kingdom Hearts 3 retweet from, like, over 2 years ago, so I think Katsu's just kind of gone. He was working with some friends and writing a novel series, I think, or something like that. That was the big thing he was doing after Cathedral of Shadows, but I don't know if that really went places or not. I think maybe a couple books of that came out, and I don't know if they ever made more. I don't really know. Like I said, I didn't really keep up with them all that much, so yeah, I don't know. Katsu's out doing whatever. I kind of don't know where he's at, which I know might be a kind of a bummer answer if you were wanting to know his whereabouts, but I don't know. I think he kind of just left the internet, I guess. Mash Tonish asks, love the Let's Plays, especially the SMT ones, so I look forward to hearing more about them. Thanks. Oh, that wasn't a question. That was just y'all are so nice. Thanks for the nice comments. Luke asks, do you ever plan to do singular videos that discuss a game or game series rather than a full Let's Play? Like for games that you can't quite commit to doing a full Let's Play for on the channel. Whatever the answer is, I still think your ways of doing Let's Plays is really entertaining, so keep being you, man. Thanks a lot. Y'all are so nice. I don't deserve this level of praise. No, but singular videos that discuss a game or a game series. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what my reviews are in a way. I've thought about that before. Somewhere deep inside me, I feel like there's the possibility of me doing a very personal and very long-form video or 3 long-form videos for each of the different Mother/Earthbound games, because those are games that I have, like, I'm talking deep personal connections with, and those games are very related to me growing up and my friends growing up and figuring out who I am as a person. Like, I have a really deep connection to Earthbound and Mother 3 especially, but also somewhat Earthbound Beginnings, or Earthbound Zero Mother, or whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, maybe, but for now, it's gonna be mostly review stuff if I ever do, like, long-form stuff. I probably wouldn't ever do, like, a talking about a whole series in one long video. I'd probably divide it up into its separate installments. Like, I wouldn't ever make a video talking about, like, all of Final Fantasy. Like, I would cover individual Final Fantasy games, I guess. Svendelica says, what do you think was the most disappointing thing from the previous console gen? Well, I only had a PS4. Well, I don't know. I don't know how this divides up anymore because the Wii U kind of threw a wrench into things. But if we're defining previous console gen as like Wii U, PS4, Xbox One, I guess. I don't know. I guess we can throw the Switch in there, but it's still kind of current gen. It's weird. Nintendo doesn't really map out well anymore because the Wii U kind of came out at a weird time, and then the Switch followed it up at a weird time, and nothing really lines up well. Most disappointing. I mean, I don't know. I thought the previous console gen was fine. I actually thought it was a lot better than like the PS360 era. That kind of was a bummer. I think what I'd say is I really don't like the PS4 controller's battery life. I think it's PS4 controller, fantastic controller. Second favorite controller right behind the PS5 controller, which somehow managed to be even better. Like, the first time I held the PlayStation 4 controller, I was like, oh my god, this is the greatest video game controller ever made. And then when the PS5 controller finally was in my hands, I was like, oh, no, never mind, they beat it. They did better somehow. Yeah, but I really didn't like the fact that that light bar thing was something you couldn't just turn off for most games, and it really killed the battery life, and that was a bummer. But other than that, I just think, like, game sizes got really fucking big and bloated, especially AAA games, and it's like, I don't need games to look that good if they're going to be that big. I really don't. I would take games that look like... Games could look 10 times shittier than they did, and be way lower in file size or whatever, and I would be so much more happy. It's just such a pain in the ass dealing with data storage stuff for consoles and all that. It's just not fun. Nicholas Borba asks, what was your first JRPG? The one that, I don't even know if it was technically my first, but I'd say, you know what I think, for all intents and purposes, Paper Mario for Nintendo 64. Though also, I think possibly around the same time, like, Pokemon Red and Blue. And then obviously Gold and Silver and all that too, but you know, those kind of were my formative JRPG experiences. Paper Mario was a game that I have a lot of fond memories of, and really was a game that I remember as a kid it was a motivator for me to learn how to read. Like, that was a game that I would use to, like, practice my reading skills when I was really young and stuff like that. So that was always a fun time. Yeah, and then Will says, love your videos, man. Yeah, thanks, Will. Yeah. I don't know. I think that just about covers it. I don't got anything else to really say. So, yeah, thanks for listening to this really long update video, even if you skipped around. Ooh, God, this is like 2 hours. Holy shit. Oof, this is gonna be a pain to edit. Well, yeah, I better stop talking so I can wrap this up and edit this together. Oh God, I'm not looking forward to editing this. Yeah, have a good one, y'all. I hope you have a fantastic night, and I hope you look forward to the other stuff I have in the chamber for all of y'all to enjoy. Thanks. Bye.